What's up, everyone? Jason Gilbo here. With me is Chris Etherington, taking a look at some DraftKings picks for WGC Bridgestone Invitational. No cut this week. How does that throw a wrench into kind of your strategy?
Yeah, with a no cut event and other events like this, I think it's feasible to basically try to be more aggressive than normal. For example, for me, I like to use the 20 max tournaments, and I'm thinking of going maybe around 13 golfers, maybe 15 golfers that I like at the most, and just pick basically 3 or 4 guys that I think will do well and just expose them very high. And that way, I mean, if they hit, then I will have a nice payday at the end of the week.
Yeah, this is a good week. It's a good multi-entry week too, just because there are a lot of different options you can go with, a lot of different strategies to use. Let's talk this top tier of options. This is a loaded field this week. It's completely different from last week. You talk about DJ in your core. He's obviously a play that's always going to be on the top of the board anytime he's in a tournament.
Yeah, he's definitely my number one guy for the rest of the season anyway. I mean, for stats, he's one of the best. He's third in strokes gained approach the green. I mean, he's 14th in birdie or better percentage. He's basically averaging 20th in the rankings for all the 3 stats that I like to look at every week. So with that being said, I think a lot of people will probably go to Spieth or to Fowler, or possibly Matsuyama as well. And I think DJ might be overlooked at that point. He does have a chance to become the first player to win 3 WGCs in a season. Not even Tiger did that. He only won 2 in the season out of his 18 total. So I'm just going to play that narrative, and I'm just going to pick DJ and a couple of guys up here and just move on.
Yeah, and fitting 2 of these top guys is certainly viable and fairly easy to do this week. I like Fowler quite a bit. He's going to draw the higher ownership, of course, but he's pretty strongly 4th in birdie or better percentage. He's 2nd strokes gained total. I mean, everything kind of checks off here, where history, his obviously stats, his recent form come in where, I can definitely see Fowler coming in, making some noise, and possibly making a run at winning this thing.
Yeah, when you look at his course history, for example, I mean, he has 3 top 10s in his last 3 years. And if you just look at that and seeing that he's the 5th cheapest guy from the top, I can bet that he's probably going to be the highest owned out of these guys. If you look at his recent play, I mean, he only has 2 missed cuts the entire season. And then in his last 4 starts, he has 3 top 10s. So people will look at that. They know what his stats are. He's usually up there for most of them every week. And then with his course history, I could bet, like I said, that he's definitely going to be the most popular play up at the top.
Do you not like anyone up here? I mean, is there someone that you're just looking to fade? Let's say over the 9K mark in general.
I think over the 9K mark, if I have to pick one guy, it might be Henrik Stenson. I don't know what his knee situation is at this point, because it's always seems to be that problem of his, especially if he gets into a no-cut event. He tends to withdraw, especially if he doesn't play well. I think out of all these guys, he might be that one guy where it's just a total fade for the week.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just don't think he draws the same appeal for me as some of these other guys because, Speed, Johnson, McIlroy. I'll let you kind of take the leads on McIlroy and Brooks Koepka here because you put them in your honorable mentions section. And these are two guys that, a no-cut event here, they can run up the score.
Yeah, if you're one of those guys that likes to look at basically DraftKings scoring, then I think McIlroy and Koepka makes a lot of sense. Basically for McIlroy, if he makes the cut, then you can bet that he's usually in the top 5 for the most DK points of the week. And like I said in my article, that this week there's no cut. So basically by Sunday, you can bet that he's probably going to be probably in the top 3 of guys for making birdies. If you look at his recent history here, I mean, he has a win here back in 2014, and then he has a few top 10s before that. So with that being said, and with his DraftKings scoring abilities, I think him and DJ, along with Koepka, are my top choices at the top this week.
I'm with you there. This 9K range, there are some popular names. John Rahm, 9,700, Justin Rose, 99, Jason Day. I kind of like Rose and Day as kind of those GPP pivots because they're going to come in less around, and obviously the names that we just mentioned above. Will it be a crazy difference? Probably not, but I can see Rose being somewhat lower owned just because, he's been pretty quiet this year. Obviously no wins, but he's put up a couple of big scores here.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at, for the stats that I like to look at for the week, Rose is 6th in birdie or better percentage, and he's also 7th for strokes gained around the green. If you look at his course history, he has basically 3 top 5s in his last 5 years playing here. So I'm not sure what his ownership is going to be, but I can bet that it might be around that 15% range. I think more people are going to go to Rahm just because he's been a more popular play overall this season. If you look at Rahm's recent play this year, I mean, we kind of all knew that he was going to miss the cut at the U.S. Open because his mental game's not there yet. He says he's working on it, but after the U.S. Open, I mean, he's made his last 3 cuts, and he's won the Irish Open. So I think more people will go to Rahm instead of Rose, and I think Rose might be that perfect tournament option for the week.
Yeah, I agree. And Matsuyama's only $300 more, who's probably going to be a popular play as well. He's in a good spot. Let's move down here. We'll talk ownership on Matt Kuchar real quick. He's 9,300. This has been a guy who's been popular for quite some time now.
Yeah, when you look at his recent performance, I mean, he was basically stupid chalky at the British Open. He was just way too cheap. There's actually someone similar to that this week that we'll mention. But going back to Kuchar, I mean, at the British, he was close to 40%. And then last week, I think he was not as popular, but he was still one of the most popular plays for the week. He almost screwed everyone over. He barely made the cut on Friday. And I think with that, he might have left some little sour taste in the players' mouths. I'm still saying that he's going to crack the 20% in ownership, but I'll be surprised if he's in the top 5 this week.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a week where, we've seen a couple of fields. Obviously, last week was different, but yeah, I think pricing kind of ties into it more. He's still around a lot of names. I mean, I like a lot of these guys right in this range. I think Paul Casey's an interesting one at 9K. He's been a guy who's, been playing pretty well, especially in the bigger tournaments. A couple of top tens this season. I just don't mind going back to the well with him at his price tag. He always just kind of sits nicely as my second or third guy.
Yeah, I mean, he gives his own opportunities for trying to make birdies. I mean, he's ranked 8th for his strokes gained approach the green. He's ranked 15th for his strokes gained around the green. It's just his putter that's really holding him back this season. If you look at his recent performance here, I mean, he hasn't missed a cut in a while. And then he has basically 11th at the British Open and then a couple top 10s before that. So I think at 9,000, I think Paul Casey is like your nice, basically your secondary golfer for the week. Even for a core, I mean, he's just that consistent all around, and there's really no reason not to play him this week. So
in this range, kind of it's interesting because you got a couple of guys that we always kind of consider as GPP only. Daniel Berger is one of those guys. Justin Thomas is another one who's a real wild card. But with no cut, I mean, I think this is a tournament where we can start to take some risk. Not Justin Thomas, but I do like Daniel Berger at 83. And you gave me a little insight of him last year here before the show.
Yeah, so it's really interesting on Berger for this season because last year he was that guy that he was basically one of the most popular plays at the start of the week, and he hit his first tee shot and said that he has a shoulder injury, and he decides to WD and collects his check for the week. So he'll definitely left a bad taste in the players' mouths after doing that. So I don't know if he's going to do that again this week, but if you look at his recent performance, I mean, he only missed one cut in his last 6 starts, and he has a win at the St. Jude, a second at Travelers. So I think it's almost very similar as it was last year. He's going to be very popular. It's just after that first tee shot, whether he's actually in it this week or he just wants to play and collect that 50,000 guaranteed money for the week.
It's certainly interesting. Too bad everything doesn't work like that. I was joking around saying, hey, I could come and record one show and be done for the day.
It's funny how that is sometimes. Some of these events, they basically try and pay the players in order to show up at their event. But yeah, with Berger and with some of the other players, you could just bet if they're not playing well on Thursday, and if it's like a WGC, you could put your money on that he's gonna WD, because that's usually what happens.
Well, we'll get to safer guys. I know a guy that you like, Mark Leishman, 88,000. This is a guy who's been pretty consistent, and he's always kind of in this mid-range.
Yeah, when you look at his stats, he's 34th in birdie or better percentage. He's 37th in strokes gained approach the green, and he's 44th in strokes gained around the green. You can't really get more consistent than that. When you look at his course history, I mean, he's had a third place finish here back in 2014. And if you look at a recent play, he has basically a 6th and a 5th place finish in his last 2 starts. So being at 8,000, if I had to guess ownership, it will probably be around that 15 to 17% mark. But I think no matter what, I'm just going to basically be overweight on him. I think he's going to crack the top 10, possibly contend for the win this week. He's a nice dark horse, I think, for this week.
Yeah, certainly. And this range, I mean, in general, it just carries a lot of names. I think a lot of opportunity. This might be between maybe 7,000 to 8,500, 8,300. This might be the range that kind of separates yourself from the field, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's like even just around the 7,500 mark, like the three guys that I was hovering around for that third guy that I like, it was Chappell, Woodland, Hoffman. Those three guys, you can make an argument for all three. They've been playing well. I just went with Woodland just because of he's playing better. Basically, after the birth of his child recently, we all know what happened to his family a few months ago, but now that he has a kid and his wife is healthy, he's in good spirits now, and it definitely showed his performance last week. So, with that being said, I think Woodland will probably be the most popular of the three golfers. But like I said, I think all three are in play for this week.
I'm with you, and I think if you're looking to make pivots, Louis right there, 7,800. He burned me the last time he was out. That was disappointing, but I don't mind going back to him. I think he's going to be fairly low owned in this one, just because there's a lot of other guys in this range.
Yeah, this range might be where the ownership starts spreading out. There might be that one or two guys that will be a little more popular. But with Louis, I mean, he has okay course history here. And then despite the miscut at the British Open, before that, he's actually been playing decently well. I think the fact that he's playing less is helping his back, so he's actually playing better because of that. But yeah, I think Louis is that nice pivot option, especially being sandwiched in between Phil Mickelson and Patrick Reed and Lee Westwood there.
Yeah, and I don't even mind Jason Duffner here either. Pretty good course history, 7,200. Russell Henley, Xander Schauffele. This is the range where I think I'm going to probably differ the most. I may kind of narrow myself down at the top and then start to kind of play around in this range more, actually, while maybe other people do it differently and kind of go, I'm going to lock in two or three of these guys and change them up top.
Yeah, I think I'm that way. I like to try and be different at the top and see if that works out for me. For me in this range, I think Thomas Peters might be that Matt Kuchar that I talked about a couple of weeks ago. He's at 7,300. He's that name that everyone is gravitating towards lately. If you look at his recent play, yeah, he has a couple missed cuts, but when he does make the cut, he usually finishes pretty high on the leaderboard. And with being a no-cut event, he's definitely becoming one of those players that likes to score a lot of DK points. So with that being said, I think Peters at 7,300 is pure value play for the week.
Yeah, I like him. And below the 7K mark, I mean, it doesn't really end there. There's a lot of different options. I know guy you're looking at, we'll get to him last because he's actually pretty close to last in salary. But I mean, just this range in general, I mean, I don't mind Brent Steele, 6,700. He's a good option if you're kind of going with that stars and scrubs approach. And as you said, it helps kind of with the no cut. I mean, he hasn't been in the best of form of late, so I think that kind of helps. And Bill Haas right there at 69. He's usually been a value staple for me. Obviously, was bad at the Open, but I could see him kind of rebounding here.
Yeah, both Haas and Steele have been basically my go-to guys for most of the season. For Steele, I mean, his stats are still consistent, even though he's been struggling a little bit. He has played here once before, back in 2011. He finished 48th that year, so he does have some history to fall back on. When you look at Bill Haas, I mean, he he has more history than Steele, so he should be more popular in that regard. His best finish here was back in 2013. He finished seventh that year. And then if you look at his recent play, despite the British Open where he missed the cut, I mean, he has a 13th finish and a fifth place finish at the U.S. Open. So if you look at that, and with Steele, I think those two guys might be your good cash options for the week.
I went I know the guy that you put into your article that's super cheap is Pat Perez, 6,100.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Pat Perez stats, I mean, he's actually up there for like average overall. He's 28th. He's ranked third and strokes gained around the green. He's ranked 21st and birdie are better. So with that in mind, and with him being at 6,100, and then he also had a missed cut and actually a couple missed cuts and a DQ last week at the European Open. So when people are looking at that, I think he might be that nice little tournament option where he should be probably less than 2% owned, if I had to guess. But if you look at his stats, there's really no reason for him to be down here. He was playing very well at the beginning of the season, and then with a couple, like I said, with a couple missed cuts in there, I think they'll just throw people off, and he might be that nice little sneaky option that might help you this week.
Yeah, definitely a salary relief play there.
Yeah, so that will definitely help picking two guys that you like at the top and just work your way down.
Wrap things up here. Who do you got winning this thing? If you're giving up, let's say over 9,000, if you were making a call.
I mean, I have to go with what I said in the article and what I've been saying basically all week so far. I think DJ might be that guy to win all three WGCs in the season. I think he is on a hot streak, or he's about to become going on to a hot streak after a top 10 finish last week. Yeah, I think DJ will pull off this week.
Yeah, I don't mind him. You can never argue against DJ.
Yeah. Being the number one player in the world, he's second next to Spieth in the FedEx, and he's basically in the top 4 or 5 overall stats that I'm looking at for the week. So, yeah, I'm just going to go with the well on DJ.
What about below 9K? Anyone like a dark horse?
I mean, I already said Leishman, but
yeah, that's true.
If I have to pick someone else, you know what? I think that baby factor is still in for Woodland. I think Woodland might do something this week.
I like that. Fowler is my guy up top. I think he gets it done finally. As far as a cheap guy, man, I don't know. I'm going to throw a Haas. Haas is a sleeper here for me.
There you go. Yeah, people won't, for some reason, people won't play him because they think he just doesn't have what it takes to win, but he won the FedEx Cup a few years back. So, yeah, I like that play a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he's been consistent this year, but not a consistent top 10 guy but I don't know. This one, I mean, I can definitely see he's been kind of hanging around most of these tournaments. I don't know. This one kind of suits him well.
Yeah, he'll be a nice low ownership type of play for sure this week.
So let's wrap it up here. You can head over to DaveFantasyCafe.com. You can check out Chris's core plays and his new format. It's just super sexy. You get some extra few picks in there, and should definitely check that out. So, that's going to wrap it up. You can head over to DaveFantasyCafe.com. Check out great tools and content.